Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on which corner of the world you are following us. You are online at our virtual forum, Global Estonians. So welcome, and I'm really happy that you are following us. We are live here in Tallinn. And to prove that this is actually going live, I will make a very awkward and long pause. No director would allow that on TV, so.
Head eestlased üle maailma. Ma väga tänan teid võimaluse eest tervitada teid kõiki globaalsete eestlaste foorumil.
I'm grateful for this opportunity to welcome you all at the Forum of Global Estonians. It is very important that we meet up once a year, even if it's virtually. The topics of today's forum are education, language, and global Estonianism. These are all extremely significant topics for Estonia. We have to remember that we are all under the same roof, and without culture and education, this roof will not withstand rains and storms. The world is very fragile at the moment. There is a lot of talk about threats and challenges, fears and insecurities. It's been almost 1,000 days since the onslaught of the Russian aggression in Ukraine, on the very day that Estonia was celebrating its independence. For today's generation, freedom is a normal way of life. Luckily, they do not know a different world. But freedom is not self-evident. We need to protect it and remind ourselves of it. And this is where youth and education have an unstoppable power. Dear young people, if you ask me whether it is a good idea to come and study in Estonia, the natural answer is, of course. I say this as both a Minister of Education and Scientific Research, a university lecturer and a parent, whose children go to school in Estonia. It is a good idea to study in Estonia, and there are several reasons for that. The skills and knowledge that children acquire in Estonia are among the best in Europe as well as in the world. We have reason enough to be proud. Thanks to the PISA rankings, our tiny country has become an advocate of education in the world. People visit us, learn from us, and listen to us. They want to know how we do it. Estonia may be small, but there is a sense of openness here, and there is courage to think. In 2025, Stockholm, Tallinn and Narva will host the 13th World Estonian Culture Days, known as ESTO. At the same time, we will also be celebrating our biggest cultural event, the Song and Dance Festival. These two celebrations will bring together numerous young and old people with Estonian roots from all over the world. The title of ESTO is Üheskoos, Together. This is an opportunity to actually meet, exchange experiences and find new friends. And it would be truly wonderful if some of you were able to discover that Estonia is a nice place to study and to live in. You are all global envoys of Estonia. Let us stand together for the good reputation of Estonian education and culture. Let us watch over Estonia. Thank you to our Minister of Education and Research, Kristina Kallas, for the welcoming words. I would like to add that, as I said, no director of an event would allow for such an awkward pause. This is how it worked out. I wasn't allowed that awkward pause. I'm half American and I don't like these awkward silences. We always try to fill it with talk and chatter. So this is what I'm going to do here today. This is my election promise to you. But we are in the science studio Rocket 69, Rocket 69. People need all kinds of skills of physics, chemistry, anything. Please check it out on the Jupiter website, err.ee. But But we will continue with the topic of education, and we will try to find an answer to the question whether Estonian education is indeed the best in the world or one of the best. So we will meet many young people today who have come from outside to Estonia to acquire an education. So our today's virtual forum can be followed on the website of Global Estonian on all the channels and through the websites of ERR, Postimees and Estonian World. So you can find our virtual forum on all these websites. Okay, now we have it in English.
Go ahead and switch on the English tab that's over here on your side. And we have really great translators who actually don't know what to do right now because I'm speaking in English, so they can just take a break. Yeah.
So our interpreters took a little break. So if you need to listen in English, then you can do it right here. So before we go to the next presentation, we will have a raffle on the Facebook page of Global Estonian. It's a very beautiful book. It was among the top 25 most beautiful Estonian books, and we will have that raffle. The book is called Literally Estonian, so please go to the Facebook page of Global Estonian and you may be the lucky one to win that book. But our virtual forum will last approximately 2 hours, so make yourselves comfortable and we will go on with our next presentation, and this is Liisa Jarvis, who has grown up in the US, but she will speak about her studies.
Tere! Mina olen Liisa Jarvis, ma olen pärit USA-st, Põhja-Carolinas, ma olen poole eestlane ja ma kolisin Eestisse nüüd 7 aastat tagasi, et minu bakalaureuse õppida animatsiooni osakonnas EKA-s. Nüüd ma töötan animatsiooni osakonnas projektikoordinaatorina ja alustasin just see aasta minu magistriõppega. Aga miks siin Eestisse tulla elama? See on hea küsimus. Palju inimesed on seda küsinud minu käest ja vastus on see, ma arvan, et Eesti on väga turvaline ja sõbralik koht, kus elada. Üldiselt nagu süsteem siin on väga läbimõeldud ja lihtne aru saada. Isegi kui ma kolisin siia üksinda, ma sain suht hästi kiiresti nagu aru, et kuidas asjad käisid siin ja inimesed oligi nagu abivalmis. Ja miks ma tulin siia EKA-sse õppima? See oli sellepärast, et mu ema ka õppis kunagi Eestis Kunstiakadeemias, aga keraamika osakonnas. Ja siis, kui ma hakkasin mõtlema, et ma tahtsin ka kuidagi kunstiga edasi minna minu eluga, siis üks mõte oli meil, et aga äkki lähed nagu EKA-sse õppima. Ja kuidagi hakkas siuke nagu tunne, et ma tahaks animatsiooni õppima. Ja selle ajal ma teadsin, et EKA animatsiooni osakonnas töötavad palju inimesed, kes olid nagu päriselt professionaalselt animatsiooni valdkonnas. Et tundus, et oleks nagu kõige parem koht, kus tegelikult õppida ja minu meelest see tunne oli õige. Minu õppimisajal siin kohtusin lihtsalt nii palju huvitava kunstnikuga ja ka nagu päris inimesed, kes töötavad animatsiooni valdkonnas. Ja nüüd mul on nii nagu suke, kuidas öelda, nagu close ja lähi sõprakond siin animatsiooni valdkonnas, aga ka üldiselt nagu selle kunsti valdkonnas, et kõik inimesed teavad üksteist ja siis sa ei tunne ennast kunagi nagu üksinda siin. Ja EKA üldiselt on suke hästi vaba ja sõbralik koht, kus saad olla iseennast ja kasvada ükskõik nagu missugune inimene sa tahad olla. Ja see keskkond aitab sind arendada ükskõik kuidas sa tahad. mul oli väga hea kogemus siin õppida ja ka nüüd praegu mul on väga hea kogemus siin töötada. Õppida edasi. Muidugi kõik ei ole nii lihtne siin. Võttis mul palju aega seda keelt õppida ja mul on aktsent ikka tugevalt sees. Ükskord mu onu tegi selline nalja, ma ütlesin midagi, ma ei mäleta, mis täpselt, aga siis ütles, et oota, aga kas sa oled Saaremaalt, sest sinu öö-tähed on kõik nagu valesti, ütled, et neid nagu sa oled Saaremaalt pärit ja siis oli natukene meie perekonnas naliasi, et minu perekond ei olegi Saaremaalt, aga tundus, et äkki mina olen.
There are many reasons to come to study here. One being that the university has a long history. It just celebrated its 110th anniversary, which is really nice. But you can also choose from among a wide range of specialities, such as architecture, painting, fashion, photography, design. More information can be found on the website artyun.ee, including information about admissions, more details about specialities, and contact details if you wish to find out more. Thank you very much to Liisa for sharing your story of Art University. I think your Estonian is much better than the language skill of a lot of people from Saaremaa. I understood everything you said. Thank you very much again for sharing, and we will continue with the next story, which takes us to the University of Tartu, where Toomas Tolgo from the US will tell a story of his doctoral studies. Hello everyone. My name is Toomas Tolgo and I am a fourth-year medicine student at the University of Tartu. I come from Seattle, US, where I lived when growing up. I have an Estonian mother from Tallinn and a British father. Estonia has always played a big part in our family's life. My mother always cooked typical Estonian dishes for us, roosa manna and meat patties with potatoes, and we took part in events for Estonians living abroad. Furthermore, we visited grandma in Estonia almost every summer. But living in the US, and with my father being British, we spoke English at home. And I did not speak any Estonian. This did not come without issues. I remember once playing with my trains with the son of my mother's Estonian friend. And the word train, rong, in Estonian, sounds like wrong in English. When he was saying to me to put the wrong somewhere, what I thought was he was saying to me, you are wrong. And so I ended up going to my mother crying. I also found communicating with my Estonian relatives a bit difficult. This bothered me, and soon I realized that I should learn Estonian. After graduating from secondary school, I had two goals. The first one was to become proficient in Estonian language, and the second one was to become a doctor. And luckily, I was offered both by the University of Tartu. Upon graduation, I moved to Estonia and enrolled in an intensive Estonian language course at the University of Tartu. My brother Sten was already living in Tartu with a friend from the armed forces, so I spent a year with them. At the beginning, I was a bit scared, as I knew nobody apart from my brother in Tartu, and I was a bit worried because I knew that Estonian is one of the most difficult languages to learn. Learning Estonian seemed like a massive challenge, and it was. For sure, there were days when learning Estonian grammar seemed so difficult I wanted to quit, but you just need to persevere. Then I did military service in Võru for 11 months. My Estonian took a huge leap during that time because Estonian is spoken 24/7 at the armed forces. Now, as you know, I am training to be a doctor, but I'm studying on an English language program. The program is aimed at foreigners, but as the clinical studies take place at hospital setting, one needs to speak Estonian to be able to speak to the patients. Estonian is taught during first and second year, and if you are interested, is offered also beyond the first 2 years. The English language curriculum was a
major reason for me to come to the University of Tartu. My education until graduation from secondary school was in English, and I did not feel ready to study exclusively in Estonian. It would have been particularly difficult to study sciences in a language other than English. On the medicine program in English, one can conveniently combine studying medicine with learning Estonian. My path has not been the easiest, but I'm very happy with the decision I made. The experiences gained by doing military service and studying at the University of Tartu have made my life better. Now, my Estonian is getting pretty good, and I'm soon to be a doctor.
Thank you to Thomas. It's really cool that you shared your story with us. Maybe next time we'll meet in the doctor's office. It would be really nice. But now we are going on with our virtual forum, and we have places here on the stage for 3 people, 3 tables, 3 glasses. And it's not for my alter egos, it's actually for our 3 guests. And we will have a discussion on the topic whether Estonian education is the best in the world. And we will have leaders in that field on stage. Eero Loonurm from Study in Estonia. Let's have an applause. Hello, Eero. Then we have Nele Dresen from the Ministry of Education and Research. Hello, Nele. And Kai Koort from Education Estonia. A great panel that we have here. But before I give the floor to you, we will ask a chatbot developed in Estonia. Why study in Estonia? So let's see what this chatbot, came up with. So if you can see, then chatbot says world-class education, digital society, affordable accommodation and study fees, innovative research opportunities, cultural experiences, a safe and friendly environment, gateway to Europe, and support to international students. It sounds exactly like the answer of an AI created in Estonia. Does it sound too good? Do you agree with chatbot or not? Who would like to start? Looking at this answer, I would like to praise chatbot Lume. It was able to give a very good answer to this question. Did anything seem a bit exaggerated, or is it actually the way it is? I wouldn't say that there were wrong answers. I am a bit critical. I would say that Lume missed quite a few points. So there were too few things mentioned. So we are going to really promote Estonian education here today. So what Lume missed was, for example, that we have one of the best learning environments in the world. Our cultural language, all the opportunities that you can do, things you can do beyond the curriculum. We have very good individual approaches at schools. I've heard that from Estonian students studying abroad in Europe or elsewhere, that the minimal size of an auditorium is 200 students. The first time you can approach your professor or teacher is when you defend your bachelor's thesis. But we have study groups of 25 students, for example, in our medical department. So 25, 30 is an optimal group. And then you can actually approach your tutor or your lecturer for a discussion. But Eero, now that the floor is yours, you represent Study in Estonia. What do you do on a daily basis? We help Estonian higher educational institutions, universities, applied higher education institutions, so that foreign students might come here. We have at least from 120 countries foreign students here, and this means the mixture is very interesting. We have our own webpage, which is visited and followed by many people who are thinking of studying in Estonia. We have our own channels, we have our own surveys, materials, so we help universities as much as we can. Do you feel that a person interested in studying in Estonia, can they access all the necessary information that they need for making the decision? Yes, they can. Usually they know what they want to study. Let's imagine it's medicine or engineering in Taltech or modern art at EKA. So then they can move on to the webpage of the university. Then they know what the enrollment requirements are, who the contacts are, who will be teaching. They can write to lecturers, professors. Everybody answers their emails, and they can explain why it's good to study there. Nele is nodding. She seems to be agreeing, but is she? Yes, to a very large extent, I agree with Eero. What Study in Estonia does and how they promote studying in Estonia and really wish the information to be spread all over the world regarding our education landscape in Estonia. I think they do a really great job in doing that. But tell me, from the point of view of the Ministry of Education and Research, do you have information regarding how many not simply foreign students, but foreign students with Estonian roots have come to Estonia to acquire higher education? Yes, we have that statistics. It's quite fresh. Last year, there were 100 such students in that category. Then this year, 72. So these numbers have changed a little bit from year to year. We'll see what next year brings. But mainly, the programs they want to study are the same: business, law, technology, IT, and so on. So the programs tend to be the same from year to year, but we'll see what next year brings. But it's interesting that the programs or the fields of activity tend to remain the same. No surprises there in the past few years. Business seems to be law and IT and technology, topics like that. So no surprises there. And of course, you may think what the reasons are, why these programs and why these fields of study. There must be very many reasons, but these fields are really good. And the programs are really good that you can study at. So probably the reputation of the good education in Estonia spreads in the world, thanks to the people who come here for either just 1 year as exchange students. Kai, what would you say? And do people get enough information who want to come to study in Estonia? Is there good access to it? I think they do. If they want to come to study, or if they simply want to come here to get more information or to visit schools, maybe coming back to Lume, I agree with Eero, maybe Lume didn't say enough. The field of education is very exciting. There's a lot of interest towards it all around the world, and it has been increasing. So I mainly deal with foreign delegations coming to Estonia and wanting to know more, and there is a lot of interest in that. We have delegations from Korea, Sweden, Bahama. There are journalists, school principals. So Education Estonia website has this sort of hub or platform where people with different educational interests could land first. And there you can have an overview of what's happening in the Estonian education system, how it's structured. It's a very popular link. We have blogs. We cover also PISA results. People are very much interested in that. Information technology in education. You can read blogs about that. We have short videos, about 3 minutes. If someone is interested in what a child does in Estonian kindergarten, or what does a school principal do with his or her autonomy, data is a topic very much. People are interested in how data is protected. We have newsletters in Estonian and English. And if someone wants a speaker to come and speak about Estonian education, we have very good materials on that. But indeed, when someone wants to come and study, then our webpage will point them on to Study in Estonia webpage. So we cooperate in order for all that information to reach the person who is interested. But you can find all kinds of information on our webpage. You heard that story about Thomas, who is studying medicine in Tartu. He learned Estonian coming here. So how many examples of that do you have, that people actually come here and acquire the Estonian language? We don't have that kind of statistics at hand, but there are stories like that about all kinds of students who come here like Thomas. Those who are foreigners with no Estonian roots and study on Estonian programs. About 4,500 of those 200 are those studying in Estonian language programs. But it's indeed a topic that we could include in statistics and go deep into databases. I'm not sure. You have to be a bit crazy to do that, because we have opportunities also to study here in Estonia on English language programs. How much do people do that? We have more than 100 programs in English. Medicine is one of the most popular and most well-known. All kinds of engineering programs at Taltech, in the Art Academy, animation, music, veterinary medicine, in the University of Life Sciences. So more than 100 such curricula are available. But everything that's available in Estonian is open to foreign students if they acquire the Estonian language and if they are crazy enough. I wouldn't call it crazy. Thomas, indeed, if his first language is English, then it takes time to get accustomed to Estonian, but I wouldn't say that it's the most difficult language in the world. So let's take a closer look at it. When I compare it with other difficult languages, we don't have articles like and the. This is something that we get wrong in English. We don't have that. But of course, the declinations are the biggest stepping stone. No, you learn them. As you learn prepositions in English, in, at, on, to, and so on. So in Estonian, you just have to learn the endings, the declination endings. So you just add a few letters to the words, and that's it. We have no gender, we have no he and she, or in Spanish, el y la. Untranslatable, unfortunately. Nele, you said that the most famous programs, you mentioned them, but what are such curricula or programs that have gone unnoticed, that at the moment maybe somebody watching us or listening to us might think that this is a completely new thing, something different? What are these unique programs offered here? What is completely unique in Estonia? Then I'm sure there are lots of programs and fields of study in the world. But of course, heritage music, heritage technologies that the Culture Academy in Viljandi is teaching, and of course the Music and Theatre Academy. So these are completely different from anything in the world. And if you think about heritage music or Estonian folk music, what kind of instruments we have, folk instruments, bagpipes and so on, the talharpa. They learn to dance these folk dances, and this is really cool what they do. So this is something that's very Estonian. And I'm sure it also sells in the sense that it's so different, it's so unique. And I would also like to mention that you can learn language through that culture, through singing, through dancing. If these people have a positive experience with the state and the culture. I have also studied teaching Estonian as a foreign language. So Estonian is a difficult language if you can make it into smaller bits for the student. And the student, even if he or she learns 15 minutes a day, then they will have that experience that they actually know and learn. They may have these little tags written everywhere. There are very many good materials available. But to Estonians, I would say that give time to foreigners or non-Estonian speaking people to speak. Don't switch over to English. Give them a chance to practice their language. Give them time to study. And yes, I have to agree again. When I think about people that I know who are the foreigners who have learned Estonian so fast, dance, choir singing, music, it unites people and it gives you a great potential. You use the Estonian language in a completely different context and you gain a circle of friends and acquaintances and that supports you. If elsewhere, very often we go to English, we switch to English, but in a choir we usually have a different approach. Let him speak or let her speak. So immersion is probably the best way to learn a language. But this leads us to the next topic, but we will later discuss it with the young people who have actually come from outside of Estonia. There is a community ready to accept them. So what do you think? If someone comes from outside, how well are they accepted? How easily are they accepted and taken in? I would say very well, but there is always room for improvement. The leaders of curricula, heads of curricula, in universities we have student organizations, clubs in different programs. We have corporations, student corporations. So there are opportunities to socialize. And I remember that we had a seminar together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Brussels when we invited the Estonians living in Brussels to come to Estonia. And those who had come to Estonia from Brussels, they said that you have to grab every opportunity in Estonia. If somebody invites you to a club or to a society or a student organization, grab that opportunity and then you find your people, you find your network. So this is a suggestion made by these young people, and this is what I would also say to you. If you want to come to Estonia on the 1st of September next year, grab every opportunity that you have here to communicate. Kai, Nele, do you agree? Is it possible? Is it true that Estonians accept people well? I think Estonia is a very curious and open country. We are interested in learning languages, new cultures, exchanging information. Very many foreign students go to general educational institutions as well. I have heard that they are well received and schools find ways to introduce their culture in their schools. But you have to be active and look for these possibilities. A family acquaintance of mine came here from the US and she's very happy with the school system and all the training possibilities she has here. So if you're open, and young people usually are, who come from abroad, then they usually blend in very well. And I think our attitude towards them is really good, and we are curious about them, but it takes time to sort of socially get closer to Estonians. This definitely takes time, but it's all doable. And if you have managed to get close to Estonian, they will be friends for a lifetime. So you have to work on it a bit. Those who come here are usually very open themselves and often more open than we are.
See on õige. Kuule, kannapööre. Üks selles mõttes minule väga lähedane teema on ülikooli maksumus. Mul on vanem vend, kes õppis USA-s ja maksis siiamaani õppelaenu. Et kui tuleb mujalt inimene, kes tahab Eestis õppida, mis tema jaoks rahalises mõttes tähendab?
What does it mean in terms of money? I have the first question. How much did your brother pay for his education?
Kas see oli semester oli mingi 25 000?
Might have been $25,000 per semester.
Aasta peale siis näiteks umbes 50.
So about $50,000 per academic year. I think that very good quality education is available in Estonia maybe 10 times smaller amount.
Eeldame, et euro ja dollar on enam-vähem sarnased.
saying that dollar and euro rate is the same. It should be around 6,000 euros. You'll have to count in accommodation costs, living costs. What's good, if you look at what's happening in other European countries, we do not have a shortage of accommodation places at student accommodation or free market. Of course, there are more expensive specialities and less expensive, but the average is between 4,000 and 6,000. But the American view that if it's too cheap, is it then good? As we heard from the minister's speech, education is so important for Estonia that the Estonian government supports the idea that everyone should not have to pay that much for their education. The government subsidizes education. This is not the place to become rich. Thank you very much. To you all. We have reached the essence of today's debate, whether Estonian education is the best in the world. As you understand, we are typical Estonians trying to see if we should start. It's a very interesting question, and I would like to get philosophical about it, but I don't have the time. In a nutshell, we know that higher education in Estonian is at a very good level. The rankings, the studies, everything demonstrates that. What I would like to mention is that something that we're proud of is delivering higher education in Estonian, which makes it the best in the world, because this is something that cannot be compared to anything else. But whether it's the best, whether it's good, the ratings are one thing. The other thing is something that is not measurable in words or numbers. You may have very good education in Oxford, but it might not be the best for you. It depends on the people you meet, your teachers, and Estonia has huge potential to offer the best education in the world. I am a big fan of Estonian education. I have worked in an Estonian school for more than a decade, and I enjoyed that very much. I like schools as organizations because they are very curious. They want to learn, they want to improve. They organize learning clubs, and this creative freedom that I have as a teacher, it's such a creative profession that I need to have the trust I need for my work. And the respect I felt from my students and from the parents is something which makes me say that Estonian school system is demanding, but it also combines it with caring and consideration, so it makes it a good place to be. And the other thing I would like to mention is our society as a whole. Maybe this is a professional thing, but at all times when I open the TV or radio, I hear about education. There are dedicated programs to education. A lot of large proportion of the population are watching programs on physics. It's cool to be smart. If this is not believing in education, I don't know what is. The environment is very conducive, and Estonians have the understanding that the best thing that you can give to children is good education. It's worth investing in, and the idea that if I strive, if I put in the effort, I can get better. I think we have a lot of figures and arguments to back up the claim that Estonia provides world-class education. And now, Era's turn. Estonia has created the best conditions in the world to become, for people to obtain the best higher education and then move on to research. I think the conditions, the study environment, the nature, the culture, our compact size are unique selling points. These make us the best in the world. But for you to get the best higher education in the world and best research, this is left at the hands of the young people. A big round of applause to everyone, and then we can move on. Now I have the pleasure to invite our musical guest onto the stage. He's very talented. He's world famous in Estonia, at least. He hasn't won any physics prizes, and he's his mother's favorite singer. Please welcome Daniel Levi. Hello. Hello. It's a pleasure that you managed to find some time to join us here. A question to you. Is your turkey already in the oven? You know it's not. Yeah. I did know that. Before you start singing, you have performed elsewhere in the world, but where haven't you performed yet? Where you would like to perform? Last month, we went to London, for example, had a concert there. It was very cool, and it was good to see that the Estonian community was there to enjoy it. I just got back from the US. A lot of people asked me when our first US concert would take place, so I'm looking forward to performing in the US. You never know, maybe in the coming years. I hope that you will get there. But today we have the US, London, and all places of the world present. So the stage is yours.
It smells like jasmine, the air you breathe. It feels like it's what we've needed to feel for us to heal. A wall of flowers, a sight to see. Each one is climbing higher than a dozen feet. Oh, from where we started, we're on the other side of the world from where we started. We were dancing on the front porch. This is so unlike us, but I like us. Late night like it's New York. This is so unlike us, but I like us. Every single shadow showing there's a light on. Oh, it's getting brighter. Hour we're dancing on the front porch. This is so unlike us, but I like us. Jasmine is holding me. It feels like just what we've needed to feel for us to heal. And I thought I never lived to see just what it's like for us to be so free. Hey, and now we're dancing on the front porch. This is so unlike us, but I like us. Late night like it's New York. This is so unlike us, but I like us. Every single shadow showing there's a light on. Oh, it's getting brighter. Hour after hour we're dancing on the front porch. This is so unlike us, but I like us. Oh, 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 oh. From where we started, we're on the other side of the world Oh, we were dancing on the front porch. This is so unlike us, but I like us. Late night like it's New York. This is so unlike us, but I like us. We were dancing on the front porch. This is so unlike us, but I like us. Late night like it's New York. This is so unlike us, but I like us. Every single shadow showing there's a light on. Oh, it's getting brighter. Hour after hour we're dancing on the front porch. This is so unlike us, but I like us.
Suur tänu, Daniel Levi, selle muusikalise etteaste eest. Tõesti, oled üliandekas ja oled oma ema lemmiklaulja.
And you are your mother's favorite singer. As the song said, late night, it's New York. Now we'll take a peek at the Estonian school in New York, which has operated for almost a century. Let's take a look. Welcome to the Estonian School in New York. Our school is located in Manhattan, in the Estonian House in New York. The New York Estonian School is one of the oldest extracurricular Estonian schools in the world. The school was founded in 1934 and celebrated its 90th anniversary this year. Over the years, the student numbers have gone up and down, and the school format has changed. We have had years when we have had more than 100 students. Currently, we have 44 students and 11 teachers. The school operates thanks to the dedication of our pro bono teachers. The essence of the school has to a large extent remained the same over the years. We meet every other week on Saturdays. Children attend from near and farther away. Some even drive for several hours to get to the school. Our curriculum includes Estonian language, history, heritage studies, folk dance and singing classes. We also keep the Estonian traditions alive by celebrating different festive occasions. The main goal of the Estonian school is upholding the community, Estonian language and culture. When I played in the play for the Estonian Independence Day, I played the role of the President of Estonia. What I like most about the Estonian school are my friends and the food. I like to meet my friends, and my favorite memory is of the Christmas party. I like the Pooh and Spring book. At school we learn the vowels. At the Estonian school we learn our mother tongue. I like the dinosaur toys and art classes.
I brought my daughter here to the Estonian school because there's a lot of opportunity to learn about her culture and heritage and language.
My daughter has very limited contacts with the Estonian language outside school, and despite us speaking the language at home, English tries to take over and makes it very difficult to maintain the Estonian language. The Estonian school gives a good opportunity not only to speak the language, but to learn about traditions and customs and spend time with other Estonians of the same age. The most important thing about the Estonian school is children attending the school twice a month. They learn to read and write in Estonian here. They sing in Estonian. They learn to folk dancing, because we do not meet that often. The classes do not take place daily. What matters most is the seed we sow in the children, and if something sticks, they know how to sing in Estonian, and they know some dance steps, and they speak some Estonian. They know how to read and write. This is what matters most. The New York Estonian School is appreciated and loved in our community. This support has given wings to our children to discover the world as Estonians. Being proud of our beautiful sounding language and rich culture. Some fly to Estonia, some across the states, some remain here to uphold the Estonian spirit here in the large culturally diverse city. Even if our wings carry us to distant places, the heart remains here in the middle of the skyscrapers, in the home away from home, in the New York Estonian house. Greetings from the New York Estonian School.
Aitäh New Yorgi Eesti koolile
Thank you to the New York Estonian School for this video greeting. It's good to see you're doing well.
Erasmust ikka teatakse.
I'm sure everybody knows Erasmus, but YFU, perhaps not so much. It's for a slightly younger student, so we have Ella Scott online from Australia, Sydney, and she will share her experience with YFU in Estonia.
Tere, mina olen Ella.
Hello, I'm
ja
Ella.
Mina elan Austraalias. Ma sündisin ja kasvasin siin.
Ja
minu emapoolsed vanavanemad olid eestlased, nemad siis lahkusid Eestist suure põgenemise ajal ja siis lõpuks jõudsid Austraaliasse ja siis minu ema sündis ja kasvas siin. Ja minu isa on hoopis Uus-Meremaalt, et ta ei ole üldse Eesti juurtega, aga ma olen siis kasvanud siin Eesti kogukonnas üles ja väga tore on olnud. Minu perel siis tuli see mõte, et saata mind Eestisse õfuga. Tegelikult ühe minu sõbranna kaudu, sest tema läks õfuga Eestisse mõni aasta enne mind. Ja siis tal oli väga tore kogemus ja ta rääkis, kui nagu tore oli Eestis elada ja olla. Ja siis me mõtlesimegi, et tegelikult mina võiksin ka minna ja ise seda elamust nii-öelda kätte saada. Kui ma õfuga Eestisse läksin, siis oli protsess selline, et ma pidin natukene ennast kirjeldama ja siis see läks õfu veebileheküljele üles ja siis sealt vahetuspere valis mind ja nemad elavad Kiilis ja siis selle kaudu ma sattusingi Kiili gümnaasiumisse Harjumaal ja see oli väga tore kool ja kõik olid väga abivalmid ja vastutulelikud ja mul oli väga tore kogemus. Ma arvan, et kõige toredamad ja lõbusamad mälestused on kindlasti need veedetud sõpradega ja perega koos ja ka ma pean ütlema, et ÜFU korraldab väga palju väljasõite Eestis ja see on väga lahe, sellepärast et sa saadki tutvuda Eestimaaga, siis ma käisin rattamatkal Hiiumaal näiteks ja me käisime Peipsi järvel talvel, siis ma sain jää peal kõndida ja see oli väga lahe, et jah, need olid, ma arvan, kõige toredamad hetked kindlasti. Kui ma saaksin ajas tagasi minna, ma arvan, mida ma soovitaksin iseendale on tegelikult mõtelda natukene rohkem selle peale, kuidas ma saaksin eestluse hoidmisega kaasa aidata minu koduriigis, sellepärast et hetkel ma tegelikult juhendan meie rahvatantsurühma siin Sydneys ja see tuligi sellest, et kui ma olin Eestis vahetusõpilasena, ma tantsisin rahvatantsurühmas, ma tantsisin Kiili kirjudes ja ma õppisin nii palju selle aasta jooksul, et siis ma tulingi tagasi siia Austraaliasse ja ma nagu nägin, et kuule, et seda ma võiksime paremini teha ja seda teist ka, ja siis sealt ma hakkasingi õpetama. Aga kui ma elasin Eestis, ma ei tulnudki üldse selle peale, et ma kunagi hakkaksin ise rahvatantsu juhendajaks, siis ma ei pannud nagu mitte midagi kõrva taha, kui ma olin trennis, ma lihtsalt nautisin. Siis ma arvan, et kui ma saaksin ajas tagasi minna, siis ma kindlasti kirjutaksin natukene mõnda asja üles, et kuidas minu juhendaja nagu soojendus tegi ja selliseid asju, et lihtsalt mõtelda selle peale, et kuidas saaksid neid asju, mida sa Eestis õpid, oma koduriiki tagasi viia selle nagu Eesti kogukonda sinna? Ma arvan, et ma teistele soovitaksin kindlasti Eestisse õppima minna, sellepärast et minu kogemuse kaudu ma kindlasti sain oma keelt väga palju parandada, minu sõnavara laienes, ma sain julgust juurde ja ma arvan, ma kindlasti sain sõpru ka ja see aitab väga palju keele hoidmisega tulevikus ja see annab ka veel motivatsiooni juurde, et miks käia ikka edaspidi Eestis, lisaks sugulaste külastamisele. Ja ma arvan, et kui sa õpid Eestis, siis sa saadki nautida ja kogeda Eesti kultuuri ja loodust ja elu ja nii palju, kui me vähegi nagu üritame hoida eestlust välismaal. Mõnda asja on lihtsalt väga-väga raske, näiteks kelgutamisega vastlapäeval, et sellega me nagu Sydneys hakkama ei saa, nii et selleks kindlasti tuleb lihtsalt Eestisse minna ja seda nagu ehtsat kogemust saada.
Aitäh, Ella Scott, jagasid oma mõtteid meiega. Tore, et sul see aasta möödus hästi ja tundsid, et see oli sulle kasulik. Aga nüüd anname sõna USA sündinud eestlannale Liisa Treile, kes otsustas tõestada elukestev õpe on moes.
Decided to prove that lifelong learning is fashionable and attended Tallinn University.
Liisa Trei ja ma olen väliseestlane. Ma olen sündinud New Yorgis. Ma olen kolmas põlvkonnas väliseestlane.
A third generation Estonian living abroad. My grandparents left Estonia.
Eesti Vabariigi ajal.
During the first independence, they were not refugees. They were left to find a better life. My father was born in New York, and we haven't spoken Estonian at home because my mother is from San Francisco. She's not Estonian, so I haven't heard Estonian language when I was a child. But in 1985, my grandmother invited myself and my two brothers to Estonia to go to the Song Festival, and this was a fantastic experience. It was incredible. I met about 40 relatives, and it was super interesting, but I was not able to communicate with them, and this was frustrating. I wanted to understand more about my family history. And
kohtuda minu sugulased või räägida minu sugulased eesti keeles. Siis ma olin tol ajal ajakirjanik ja väga palju minu kaastöölased tahtsid minna Moskvas.
Peers wanted to work in Moscow. They wanted to write a report about the events taking place in the Soviet Union, but I wanted to go to Estonia because there was no one here, and I thought it would be interesting. So I came here.
See oli 90ndatel aastal, see tähendab, et see oli Nõukogude aeg.
It was still the Soviet Union, and Marju Lauristin invited me to teach journalism
et õpetada ajakirjandusosakonnas Tartu Ülikoolis. Ma olin esimene välisajakirjanik, kes oli õppejõud. Ja siis samal ajal ma hakkasin töötada The Estonian Independent, mis oli ainuke inglise keele ajaleht Tallinnas tol ajal. Ja ma olin korrektor või toimetaja, sest ma ei osanud eesti keelt üldse. Ja siis hakkasin ka kirjutama artikleid
I also started writing articles about Estonia to foreign media outlets. Most of them were from the US, but some were from the UK and Canada.
Oli Butši aeg ja
see
oli väga huvitav ja ma mõtlesin, et ma ei saa minna tagasi Ameerikasse ja ma jäin siin 6 aastat.
Cannot go back to the US, so I stayed for 6 years. I learned Estonian. As you can hear, I was not a good student. I heard the language on the streets, and I married an Estonian man, so we spoke Estonian at home because he didn't speak any English. And I used the dictionary at home to look up words, and somehow we managed. But this is why my grammar is not that good.
Aga ma saan aru.
But I do understand.
No, lihtsalt ma olin siin 6 aastat
I was here for 6 years, then went back to the States,
töötasin Stanfordi ülikoolis,
worked at
olin
the
ka
University of
ajakirjanik seal
Stanford. I was also a journalist
eelmine
there,
aasta ma
and
läksin,
last year
ma lõpetasin minu töö ja
I
ma mõtlesin, et no mis ma saan nüüd
stopped
teha.
working there and was
ma
thinking
tahtsin
about
midagi raske teha või
what I
midagi
wanted to do next. I wanted to
huvitav
do
ja ma
something
mõtlesin,
complicated,
mitte
something
minna tagasi Eestisse. Ma
interesting,
tahtsin
and
õppida edasi eesti
I
keelt
thought maybe
ja
not
siis
going back,
tahtsin ka
why not
õppida
go back Estonia? I wanted to learn
kõik
something,
asjad Eestis
and I wanted to learn
ja
everything
ma
about Estonia.
leidsin
So
magistriprogramm
I
Tallinna
found a master's
ülikoolis,
program at
mis on
the
väga huvitav
Italian
ja see on
University,
mõeldud
which is very interesting, and it's aimed
inimestele nagu mina,
at
kes ei
people
oska eesti
like
keelt,
me who do
see
not
on
speak
kõik inglise
Estonian
keeles.
because
Ja
it's in
ma
English.
õpin Eesti
I'm
ajalugu,
studying
Eesti
Estonian
kirjandust,
history, Estonian
ühiskonnas ja
literature,
poliitika ja kõik asjad
society,
ja
politics,
mulle meeldib väga palju.
and the like,
I
and I
decided
like
to
it a
come
lot.
to Tallinn University because it's very flexible. It has a lot of very interesting courses, and as people say, it's a new university in an old city. And Tallinn obviously is a historic city. I've really enjoyed studying here, and my first teacher here was 28, and she's a young history professor. She's fantastic. Well, actually, she's not a professor yet, but she will be a professor. She was excellent and really brought the subject of, Estonian history to life for me. So I have had wonderful teachers, wonderful experiences, understanding, broader Estonian society. People are really willing to help you if you show interest. And so I think this is a fantastic opportunity for lifelong learning. I mean, I've now retired, but I decided I wanted to do something new and something hard while I still had a lot of energy. And so I have been delighted with the Estonian Studies program. I know that there are other ones that, both master's and PhD programs in English, that are very attractive to people either with Estonian roots or people in general. So I, really hope that someone seeing this would like to find out more and to see what different opportunities there are. So anyway, I welcome everyone to Tallinn University. It's been a great experience. I decided to pursue Estonian studies at Tallinn University because it's a really interesting program. And I was looking at the time for something that would give me a stronger background in Estonian life, Estonian culture, Estonian history. As a journalist here in the 1990s, I covered a very rapidly changing society. And we used to say that 1 year in Estonia was like 10 years in the West. And it really was like that. Things were changing. There were winners and losers, and society itself was changing from a post-Soviet society to something else. We didn't really know how things were going to turn out. And that was one reason why I wanted to come back here. And at my leisure, since I am now retired, to really understand Estonian society at a much deeper level. And so when I heard about this program, I thought on one hand, oh, I really should be doing this in Estonian. But then I thought, this is an opportunity for me to really understand, but also at the same time study Estonian. So at the moment, I'm in B2 Estonian, but since I never learned Estonian in a classroom, I'm finding it quite difficult, but it's a challenge and I enjoy the challenge. So this program is really set up for people like me, but it's also set up for anybody who really wants to understand Estonia, if they're already living here or if they want to come here. The people in my course are mostly in their 20s and 30s, but it really doesn't matter. Once you're all working together, you become colleagues and classmates, and we help each other. There are people from Japan, from India, from the United States, from England, from Thailand, and Japan in the class. And it's a very interesting international group of students who have decided that they want to make Estonia their home. And as a result, it's on them, and they want to learn about Estonia at a deeper level.
Thank you, Liisa. I would like to remind you, everybody watching us, if you're in the Workshop website, you can write your questions, comments there. Maybe there are topics that we could cover next time when we have a virtual forum. So if you do that, we are having that raffle, Literally Estonian, among those who give their advice on the Workshop. So, coming back to the stage, we are happy to have another discussion, and the topic is, what is student life really like in Estonia? If you're watching this, it sounds wonderful. You almost sold it to me, but let's see if we can actually convince you further with student life. We have a master student in law, Patricia Suimets from the University of Tartu, and alumni of TalTech, Jaan-Erik Branno and Liina Deutschler. Good afternoon. Does it feel a little bit like a quiz here? Like Rakett 69? That's true. We are in their studio. Have you ever watched it on TV? Yes, of course we have. Do you have that feeling that, oh, would I be able to do that? Would I know the answers? Oh no, I'm not that smart. I thought it was only about me, because I always feel that I don't know enough. I will stick to music. But thank you for being here. Did you have anyone to ask for advice? Because you came to Estonia from abroad. Did you have anyone to ask for advice? Like people watching us here can learn from your experiences whether it's a good idea to study in Estonia or not. Did you have anyone to ask? I'm not even sure if I could look in the right places. I have relatives here. That was one source, definitely. Now I know, of course, that you can turn directly to the university. They have counselors there working who can help you. At the time, I actually didn't know where to ask. Did you have anyone to turn to? Not directly. My journey to Estonia was that when I was 18, I had to join the Defense Forces. I had to serve my time there, and I thought that I would do that first and then see what happens. And then halfway through it, in winter, I was sitting in my room and looked at the TalTech webpage, and I found an interesting program there, and I thought I might try. So it was public administration and state research. So it sounds very good. And how I managed to get enrolled was that I went in my uniform during the spring storm, as it's called, the training, and with my secondary school diploma, and said, I want to come. And they said, yeah, sure, of course. So this was my tactic. So if you come with a weapon, then you will be admitted. But you both lived abroad. You had the whole world open. So if you had different names, not Jaan and Liina, so then I would think, why Estonia? But of course your names tell that you have an Estonian background. So how much did your background or your family influence your decision to study in Estonia? For me, that was the decisive factor, of course. I decided to move to Estonia before I knew that I would study here, simply because I made up my mind and I wanted to find out what it's like to live in my other homeland. And when I was here, then I had the idea of taking a master's course. And why not do it in Estonia?
selles suhtes mul oli ikkagi suurem osa pere on ikkagi Eestist.
Most of my family are from Estonia.
Siis pere, kellega ma kolisin
And the family with whom we went abroad, I lived in Sweden for 10 years. They're all Estonians. We have always kept that Estonian connection. We always spoke Estonian at home. So for me, the question was when to come back. And of course, serving in the defense forces was a good time to come back. And Liina, where did you come from? From Germany. But before that, during my bachelor studies, I lived in Poland and Austria and France. So it was quite a multicultural background. And Patricia, how far did you come from to Tartu? 2.5 hours by train. How did you last through that? I cried a lot. Did you become homesick the very first day? But tell me, you are originally from Tallinn, and then you moved to Tartu.
Ütleme siis vastupidi küsimus sulle, et miks sa välismaale ei läinud õppima?
The other way around, then why didn't you go to study abroad? It was one of the possibilities or options. But I decided that I will always have that option later, and I should start in my mother tongue, close to home, and for free. And I wanted to study law, which was very specific to Estonia. I can't study that elsewhere. And then I can be useful to my country.
Jaan ja Liina, mis teie nagu, pere
family background, yes, your families were probably happy that you came to study in Estonia. But what did your friends say when you said that, sorry, I'm not coming with you to Berlin or Stockholm, I will not come with you, I will go to Estonia? What did they say? They are still sad.
Okay. No, selles suhtes Eesti sõbrad olid väga
my Estonian friends, of course, were very happy. They said it was high time. But my Swedish friends and my school environment was really international. It was the IB program. It had people from around the world, all corners of the world. And when I finished secondary school, it was a logical step. Let's go elsewhere. Who went back to their home country, who moved on somewhere even further away. So it's the case that now I have many friends all over the world. But there was no one who tried to convince you not to do it, and saying that, why are you going to Estonia? Not really. But of course they understood that I needed to learn about my other homeland. I had no friends in Estonia. What waited for me in Estonia was family and relatives. But one of my acquaintances once said, what differentiates me from a foreigner coming to Estonia is that I speak the language. And I have a few relatives here, but the rest is the same as for the foreigners, how to find friends here, how everything functions here. So even more than your understanding or your experiences are really useful to our viewers and appreciate it. So it's really cool to have you here. Was it difficult, and how difficult was it to enroll, taking all the documents, finding accommodation? Was it an easy process? How was it?
Ma alustuseks ütlen, et mul oli üpriski kerge, sellepärast, et mul oli juba Eesti pass, Eesti ID-kaart, Eesti need Eesti kodakondsus niikuinii oli.
I had Estonian citizenship. I hadn't become too involved in the Swedish society, so enrolling in the university after military service wasn't that difficult. But for the university, I needed to prove that I spoke Estonian because I wanted to enroll in an Estonian language program. So in TalTech, probably also at other universities, it was possible to take the university's own admission exams or tests. So I studied for those for a couple of weeks, and fortunately we had spoken Estonian extensively at home, so it wasn't very difficult. No obstacles. But to be fair, the fact that you speak Estonian and you can master a test, these are two different things. You have to know the rules to pass the test. That's a fair point, but I feel that in Estonia, the language level taught at school is already quite high, so it's nothing that can't be achieved. Because I enrolled on master's level, I didn't have to demonstrate Estonian skills. I had to demonstrate previous studies, but I had to prove my previous degree through any NARIC center that it meets the standards. It was quite easy. I sent my documents, they assessed them, and I received the reply that everything is in order. Other places where these studies do not match, you obtain your degree somewhere and it's not recognized here. I don't know. We might ask from someone who knows about these things. Or if there are suspicions, you should get in touch with the NARIC Center and the Education and Youth Board to ask for preliminary confirmation that it meets the requirements. But you found easily the information you needed to enroll? Frankly speaking, I do not remember about the details of this process. Probably it was okay. The universities, of course, provide information if you need to undertake these steps. Patricia? How did you blend in Tartu? How smooth was the process? Of course, it can't be compared to moving to another country and starting from scratch there, but it was difficult because I was away from my family and I had to build the logistics from scratch. University is not the same as secondary school. You need to find extracurricular activities, and at first it was quite difficult, but you build a new family over time. Talking about spare time in a second, but how about you? You came from other countries. You had a support system in place of sorts. But how was the process? You found yourself here, you embarked on your studies, but did it feel like you were home or you were abroad? Because I have so many family ties, I went to live with my granny, and it's always nice to live with your granny. It was home at once, so it didn't feel like, wow, where am I now? It felt like coming home finally. So I had no difficulties, but I understand if someone has spent more time away, and I was already 10 years old when I left, so I had built a life here. Before I left, it might be more difficult to return when you have left when you were younger, but I didn't have any problems. I think because I was born and raised in Germany, and I hadn't lived in Estonia, only visited, I had more issues. I had the experience of a foreigner. When I enrolled at TalTech, I went to live in the student accommodation, but I had to make new friends, and this is easier through activities, voluntary work, sports events where you can volunteer, for example. or you can join an NGO, or you join some extracurricular activities. Caltech has a lot of clubs. I joined the choir, for example. These are the key to breaking the code of the Estonian society. So you think the extracurricular activities help open doors to social relationships. For me, I was hoping that when I start my studies, I will make new friends, but my studies took place in the evenings because it was a master's program. Everyone was working. The people had their own social circles. The experience was very different from embarking on bachelor studies that take place daily.
Mina küll ütlen kohe, et ma üheski tudengiorgis ei olnud, aga ma olin siiski
student clubs or societies, but I worked at the school which created links, and the network that I built over my studies was very extensive, because the small country effect is amazing when you study public administration or governance. You joke that how many people you have to phone to get the phone number of the president. I would not be able to phone him in person, but it would only take one step. So we are all now 2 phone calls away from phoning the president. So they said that through the extracurricular activities they made new friends. Was your experience similar? Yes, I was a bit taken aback at first because the system was difficult. It was COVID time. So at one point I came back to Tallinn because my school and education took place online. But when I went back, a friend took me to a free lecture, and so I ended up in the International Relationships Club in the university, which has been taking place since 1963. You do not have to study a certain program. All disciplines are welcome. And every Tuesday we organize free lectures. We have foreign policy experts delivering lectures, and this has opened up so many doors. We also have podcasts, so I was able to learn new things, and we also give lectures ourselves and write articles. So this mission has given meaning to my life, which lacked when I started. And thanks to that, I've met the Swedish king. The Swedish king, did you hear that? That's another level. Patricia, this was a good idea, because people are watching who are considering maybe whether to come to Estonia for their studies. You had a proposal from your organization. We have this initiative. Everyone who has Estonian roots and is considering coming to Estonia or Tartu to study, we are happy to provide advice, to provide information about Tartu education. Get in touch. We have an email, rsr.information@gmail.com. I will reply to you. I think this is a generous offer, because often the information you get is quite formal.
Mõnes mõttes ongi inimesed, kes proovivad tegelikult ikkagi sind ju saada õppima.
These people are interested in you, convincing you to come. It's good that you provide independent advice.
No tõesti, kulda väärt
info, kui keegi annab sulle nii-öelda sellist
worth pure gold if you get peer-to-peer information. But we'll need to draw to a close. Jaan-Liina, I wanted to know, you came to study in Estonia, but you have graduated some time ago. What are you still doing here? Why are you here? What made you want to stay in Estonia? After graduation, I thought about continuing at master's level, but I haven't found the specialty yet. So I got a job. So I work 9 to 5, but I can also continue with the hobby I have. So I am active in motorsports. And I can spend more time on that hobby. I have always done active things, but haven't joined the master's studies yet. When I moved to Estonia, I didn't know I was enrolling at studies yet, so I thought I would just look around. Then I enrolled in the university, because coming to study to Estonia does not mean you have to stay here for good. You can take a mobility break, and I did that. And when I was doing this, I became homesick for Estonia. So when I came back and completed my studies, it was clear that I'm going to stay here. I do not want to move anymore. It's time to settle down. And Estonia seemed like the perfect place to settle down. Absolutely. We hope that Estonia seems like a good place to visit or to come to study. Why not? But let's say a big thank you to Patricia, Jaan, and Liina. We have about 4 more people in this room who can applaud. But now let us turn our eyes to TalTech and Ralf-Martin Soe.
Hello, I'm Ralf-Martin Soe. I'm the junior professor of Smart City and the director of the Smart City program. Although I live in Estonia, since I became an adult, I have lived abroad quite a lot. I started in my bachelor's studies when I worked in London at a hotel bar and earned a very good salary. By Estonian standards. Then after graduating from the University of Tartu, or doing my master's there, I went to Berlin for half a year. And after that, I went to the Maastricht University to study. I did my master's there and my PhD. But because between that I had a gap year, I ended up working in the British Embassy. And there I studied that there was great interest in the digital state of Estonia in the UK. So I wanted to link my academic career somehow with that. So I started my doctoral studies at Maastricht University, but I didn't find a good enough instructor for that, which brought me, unexpectedly for me, back to Estonia. So I resumed my doctoral studies at TalTech in the Ragnar Nurkse Institute. And to be honest, at that time it was quite painful for me, but actually it turned out to be one of the best things that had happened to me in my life. Because young people in Estonia, it is easy to launch new things, to think in a new direction, to undertake something in their careers or research centers is much easier, because most of the decision makers themselves have done that in their youth and they support that. And now I'm possibly one of the most successful young scientists. As far as grants are concerned, I have about 20 grants amounting to approximately 20 million euros. The Finest Smart City has generated a lot of interest. We were visited by delegations of a German minister, a Finnish mayor, and French cities and enterprises. On November the 28th, I will be in Brussels because the European Commission wants to introduce us as a good example. We are cooperating collaborate with Estonian towns, and we want to take research results to the local level, support the development of urban environments. And we had a design contest that was international, so we are having cooperation projects with cities abroad. That is possible only in small countries like Estonia, that young people take initiative and develop really fast. In well-established countries, it's much more difficult, it's hierarchical, and I have discovered that on several occasions that in the past 10 years I would not have had better possibilities anywhere. I have worked as a visiting lecturer at the UN University in Portugal, Stanford University in America, and Aalto University in Finland. And in Estonia you can also live an international life. My team is quite global. I have 5 doctoral students and only one of them is Estonian. Among my master students there is 1 Estonian for 2 foreigners. We usually have 1 or 2 Stanford students who do their internships here, and we're always happy when an ambitious Estonian joins our international team. In the long run, we need experts who speak Estonian and think Estonian. And finally, I would like to praise the Estonian education and innovation. Half of my education I attended Pärnu Sütevaka Secondary School. I ended there quite accidentally. My friend went to take entrance tests, and I thought, why sit in the corridor? I should try it. And the school was 5 years old. The teachers were all in their 20s. For example, Rainer Sachs, who was young at the time. The school went almost bankrupt, but in the whole, it had a completely different mentality and very high academic expectations, which really supported me. And such a pop-up education can only happen in open environments that are conducive to innovation. I'm sure that in Estonia you can find these educational innovations now in Estonia. In a couple of decades they will be successes globally, and I really advise that you send your children to study in an environment like that.
Te kuulsite Ralf Martin Soed rääkimas, aitäh sulle. Ja nüüd teeme lülituse Vabamusse. See on muuseum, mis harib, kaasab, innustab Liisa Trei, keda tähelepanelikult võib-olla juba näevad siin ekraanil teist korda. Ja Ede Schenk-Tamkivi räägivad meile 2 näidetest.
About the 2 exhibitions. Hello, we are sitting here at Vabamo in the middle of the exhibition Defending Freedom, which is a new exhibition at Vabamo focusing on the activism of civil society during the war in Ukraine. But Vabamo recently also opened another exhibition, which is available online on our website. You can see it at home. You do not need to come to the museum to see it. And the curator of this exhibition, Liisa Trei, is sitting next to me. Liisa, tell me where the idea to put together the exhibition titled Winds of Freedom came from. I am an Estonian living abroad. My Estonian is not that good, so I hope people can understand if I continue in English.
So I came to do this exhibition with the support of a Fulbright specialist grant. I wanted to translate this book. It's called Unustatud merereisid by Jüri Vendla. It came out about 12 years ago. And at the time, I knew the author, and he asked me to edit the summary in English. And I said to myself, after I did this work, that I wanted to translate the book one day. The book itself is based on research that my father, Allan Trei, did in the 90s. And what the story of this is about the Estonians who had escaped during the Suurbögenemine, the Great Flight in 1944 to Sweden. Once they were in Sweden, they thought that they would be safe, but in fact the Swedish government started pressuring them, and also the Soviet government started pressuring the Swedish government to return the refugees to Estonia, which was now occupied. The refugees were very scared, and small groups of them decided that they would take their lives into their own hands, and they bought small boats and fixed them up in secret, and then sailed across the Atlantic thousands of miles to Canada, the US, Latin America, and South Africa. This book tells that story, and when I started translating it, I realized that there was a lot of information that was missing, and I wanted to update it and create something that would be accessible to all Estonians and also to Swedes. So with the Fulbright grant and with support from Noorte Vabamu, which is run by Ede, we started working on translating but also updating the research. And we created this digital exhibition called Vabaduse Tuuled, which is now online and can be accessed by anybody. And it tells the story of these very, very brave Estonians who sailed and believed that it was better for them to die trying to live in freedom than to live under the threat of going back to, being forced back to Soviet Estonia.
The exhibition, Winds of Freedom, tells the story of 47 boats which left Sweden and ended up at different places in the world. This story is going to be one part of a future exhibition at Vabamu titled Estonians of the Global Village, which will open at Vabamu in January 2026, but already next summer in 2025, when the Song Festival and Esto will take place, people can come to see it here. What else can they do when they visit the exhibition online, for example?
What I really hope is that people seeing this exhibition will know of somebody, perhaps a relative, perhaps a friend, somebody who ended up living in Canada or the US or Argentina or South Africa or Australia, and they realized that they were on some of these boats that were called Viking ships, modern day Viking ships. They were refugee boats. And can get in touch with me. I can be reached at lisa.trey@vabamu.ee, and I would love to know more about the passengers. We're trying to complete the passenger lists and also find out what happened to these people after they arrived. The journeys, some of them are quite incredible, and so I welcome everyone to look at the exhibit. You can read it in English, Estonian, and Swedish, and get in touch. We want to make this story as complete as possible. And then next summer you can come visit it in person if you come for the Laulupidu or for Esto or both, and come in and visit our museum. Thank you.
Suur tänu, Liisa, suur tänu, Ede.
Ede.
Ole hea, räägi kaasa, mis teemad me peaksime järgmine aasta käsitlema virtuaalfoorumil?
Are the topics we should cover next year at this forum? Please submit your ideas and you will participate in the raffle for this cool book, Literally Estonian. We'll see from this book what it means to be literally Estonian. But do join in the conversation and tell us what topics are of interest to you. And talking about the different calls, and one more, we know that next year the Song Festival, Dance Festival and Esto will take place. So you can apply to the Esto youth program. If you are 18 to 25 years old, you can apply to the Esto youth delegate program. If you feel this is something for you, you will get more information on the Global Estonian portal or on the Esto website. Now, we have reached our keynote speaker for today's forum, our last presentation of the day, and there are very few people who are more famous who are Estonian than myself, but the last speaker is maybe even more famous than myself because of his tweets. Let's hear what our president from 2006 to 2016, Thomas Hendrik Ilves, had.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure in which time zone you are listening in. It's morning where I am. I thought I would speak about how Estonia became, the beginnings of how Estonia became possibly the leading country in digitalization in the world, the most digitalized country. Our competitors are perhaps Singapore, and all the others are lagging behind. This achievement is quite magnificent, what Estonians have. Actually, it has happened in the past 25, 26 years. Nowadays, in the relationship between an individual and the state, there is only one procedure that you can't do online in Estonia, where you have to step into a relationship with the state, and that will change next year as far as I have understood, and that is getting a divorce. You can get a divorce online next year. You can get married online already, but not yet a divorce. But all this started in a completely different situation, and I played a role in that those years ago. At the time, I was ambassador of Estonia to the United States, the first ambassador in Washington after 1925. When Estonia, in its enormous wisdom, decided that the US was not important, that we didn't need an ambassador there, and the ambassador Ants Piip was recalled. So when I was there, Estonia was immensely poor. Our GDP per capita was $2,800 US. I looked at statistics. When you look in Cambridge, Economic History of Europe, second volume, there is a graph there which shows GDP per capita in Europe in different years, but the last full year before World War II, Estonia was a bit richer than Finland. The units were not given there, it would be difficult to compare, but anyhow, it was written there that Estonia was a bit richer per capita than Finland. In 1992, this was the first full year after the restoration of independence. And the GDP was $2,800 US, as I mentioned. Then in Finland, at the same time, it was 23,800. So approximately 24,000. So Finland had managed to become 8 times richer than Estonia. And in such a situation, where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs often sent no money to its ambassadors to pay the rent and the wages, for example, in the US. So we were quite in dire straits, and I was thinking what to do in such a situation. And I understood that this was not just a matter of wealth, but it was a matter of development, and it all boils down to Zeno's paradox. If you can remember, then Zeno's paradox is about Achilles, the fastest man on earth, has to compete with the tortoise. And when he catches up with the tortoise has again moved away from that point. And when Achilles reaches the next point where the tortoise just was, he has again moved on. So it's the same in economy. If Estonia had even developed really fast and Finland not so well, then in absolute numbers Finland would still have become richer still. So I realized that we needed a field of activity where we would all be competing on the same level. If we speak about road construction or building hospitals or anything, then we had to catch up with others. But my background and how we finally ended up with the Tiger Leap, the name was not invented by me. I had studied in 1971, when I was 16 or 17, I had studied programming. I lived in a small town in America, and we had a mathematics teacher writing his PhD in mathematics in Columbia University. Actually, his PhD was in teaching mathematics, mathematical pedagogy, and he had this idea let's see whether it's possible to teach children how to program. That was quite an interesting idea in 1971. And quite unprecedented, as I have heard. So what did he do? He rented teletype. I'm sure it's something you have no idea about. We had these punch tapes filled with holes. It read a program. There was a huge modem. You put a phone inside it. It was linked to the mainframe, which was about 50 kilometers away. And we learned how to program in a language which was called BASIC. If some of you know anything about it, it's a kind of baby Fortran. So I started to program in 1971. 53 years ago, is it? And it rubbed off on me. Later, when I went to university, I earned a bit of money programming, about 10 hours a week. I was already using the assembly language, which programming is programming. To show how outdated all that was, I had to program the first small commercial computer that had a memory capacity of 800 kilobytes, which is as much as an empty email nowadays. So that led to not being afraid of computers, and I would occasionally play computer games and so on. So, moving on to 1993, because I had friends who were also computer geeks, one of them wrote me and said, "Listen, I have this interesting thing here, would you like to check it out?" And it turned out to be Mosaic, which was the first web browser. Nowadays, you just download your browser for free, whatever, Chrome, Safari, everything that's available. But in those days, I had to go into a shop and buy a package of 7 floppy disks. And I had to upload all that information. But I did that. I bought them. And suddenly, in front of me, I had the first browser. So what the point of a browser is, until then, if you wanted to use the internet, it was possible to use it, but you had to have all these web pages consisting of 30, 40 characters, numbers, everything. But if you had a browser, you could just approach Delfi, Eesti Päevaleht, New York Times, whatever. You just typed in the name and you could get there. I looked at it and said, this is the place where Estonia is in exactly the same place as the US, Germany, Japan, and all the others. And that is how I realized if we want to find something where we are on exactly the same level as everybody else, as all the other countries, even the rich countries, then that is the place. We are not lagging behind there. So I started to figure out how to carry that out. And then I remembered about the Estonian educational reform in the 1920s. There was Johannes Aavik, a genius who created new words that don't seem new at all these days, like relv, weapon, veenma, convince, hetk, moment, all ordinary words that we use in Estonian. They didn't exist until Johannes Aavik created them. And how did he do that? A bit corruptively, I would say, but he was a school's inspector in Estonia, and he decided which textbooks were to be used. And of course, he chose his own book. As a result, people started using these words that he had included in his textbooks. Older people, teachers, didn't know these new words, but the children were fast to learn. My father was a good example. He was born in 1923. He grew up using these textbooks, or that textbook by Aavik, and his Estonian language was completely different from his father's. He knew all these new words invented by Aavik. So I realized this was something that we had to do. The only way we can digitize Estonia is to approach young people. Teachers, older people are scared of computers. They don't know what to do with them. But let's give computers to young people. And that is how the idea came about. I made a speech in the current TalTech, which was then called Tallinn Technical University. And in the audience, Minister of Education at the time, Jaak Aaviksoo, happened to be there. And he had a PhD in astrophysics. He came to me and said, "This is quite a good idea. Shall we carry it out?" Then we sat down the same evening and devised a plan. I had experience in a situation where the state hands out computers, then these will simply be left to gather dust. But where you have to contribute, if you use Nicholas Taleb's term, skin in the game, where you have to contribute yourself, then we came up with a plan that when the Estonian government allocates money to buy computers, that the government will pay half, and the local government, the one responsible for the school, whether it's Abja Paluoja or Tartu, or whichever local municipality, they will have to pay the other half. And the next step is the driving force. At least in those days, in Eastern Europe, that's envy. If one village, local municipality has computers in the school system, then the surrounding municipalities and villages are envious and want to have the same thing. So this is how it all happened. Estonian schools began really fast setting up computers. Teachers were not aware of what to do with them, but with all this digital world, as you know, young people learn things themselves. And when the program was officially launched in 1996, then by 1998, all Estonian schools were equipped with computers. And in addition, what is even more important, they were all linked. There is not much use of a computer if you are not linked to the internet. And that was amazing, taking into account how undigitalized the rest of the world was, and it was called the Tiger Leap. I'm not going to go into detail here how much I was scolded, and for a year, at least on a weekly basis, in the Õpetajate Leht newspaper, the teachers' newspaper, they were really angry with me, how I was destroying the Estonian culture, the Estonian language, how children would only be interested in computers after that. But what happened after that was that the Estonian banks looked at this situation and said, "Oh, we could do something like that." And they carried out their own program. And all the branch offices of the banks in the local municipalities had computers. They didn't want to have all these bank offices everywhere. And then finally the Estonian government and the software developers realized that it was all really amazing how computerized we are, but it's all very unsafe. And then we had the idea in 2000, 2001. This is when that idea was realized. The system that is still working now offers all these services that I spoke about. It stands on 3 pillars. There are 3 important components to it. One is a unique system of identification number for each person. It's encrypted end to end. And where you have to identify yourself or authenticate yourself through 2-factor authentication, which is how credit cards work these days, but in those days it was completely new. Everybody had to then have an ID card that had a chip with which you could use it. So this was the beginning of the system. The second pillar, which was really important, and it was a solution that came out of an emergency. We didn't have money to build huge data centers, and the solution was that we use something that is called distributed data exchange. And we called it XXD or X-Road. And it had really great advantages as far as security is concerned. You can't enter the system and get out all the data. Different types of data are stored in different places, which means that unlike it was probably the Chinese who stole all the federal personnel data in the US in 2015. It was called the OPM, Office of Personnel Management attack. And it's impossible to do in Estonia, because what they can get access to is, for example, Toomas Hendrik Ilves's real estate data or Toomas Hendrik Ilves's health data, but it's not access Toomas Hendrik Ilves's data in general, and that applies to everyone. You can't access all the data of everybody's health, for example, because it's all stored in different places. And the last pillar, or the last component, that happened in 2008, is that all critical data are in blockchains, which means it's not like Bitcoin. It is something that you can't change or alter data without authorization, which is really important when you start computerizing. We talk about privacy here. People are concerned about privacy, but it's worse if the integrity of data is attacked. If someone knows my blood type and reveals it, or if someone reveals what little I have on my bank account, that's okay. It may be unpleasant. But if someone changes data about my blood type, could be lethal. Or if someone makes changes in my bank account, then possibly the sum will not increase there. So these are the 3 components that are absolutely necessary for the state to function digitally. Some countries who have taken the same journey, there are very few. Many countries have copied our system. The X-Road has been now implemented in 25 countries approximately. And those who have the best functioning e-services and e-service systems have built their systems up similar to Estonians or have copied something from us. So this is our most important foreign aid component. The Estonian e-Academy for example, is now in 15 countries, I think. And they have helped the countries to computerize. We have 30 people in Ukraine, 10 in Georgia, in Armenia, in Latin America, Costa Rica, soon in Guatemala. So this is the success story of Estonia. It all began in the education system. And the last point here is that in my last year in office, this was quite some time ago, in 2016, I visited Estonian companies and startups. About 4 of 5, every 5 startuppers who had something to do with digitalization, I asked them the question, how did this all start for you? That was in 2016. And 4 out of 5 would say, oh, I was a kid when you had that Tiger Leap program. I discovered computers and then it rubbed off on me and I started working in that field. So if currently we're in a situation where Estonia is one of the leaders in the number of unicorns, that means companies that are worth more than $1 billion. We have 10 of those, so which means we have 1 unicorn per each 130,000 people. Then all this began in our education system. I had a crazy idea. The work was carried out by others, of course, and I can't say that I am the one to thank here, but it all began in education and the Estonian educational system. And I'm sure that you, who are all interested in Estonian education, I don't know what you should feel if you listen to me. But anyway, if nothing else, then at least you could go to the governments of your countries and say, why are we lagging behind Estonia? If you're not Denmark or Finland or Singapore, then all the other countries are lagging behind. And I'm not going to exhaust you with stories about going to Canada, for example, and some Canadian public servant explains to me how important it is to do something that Estonia did 20 years ago, and I just sit there and say, yeah, that's all very fine. This is our big success story, and it all has to do with education. I hope that it was at least interesting for you. Thank you.
Suur tänu Toomas Hendriksel põhjaliku teekonna eest läbi Eesti haridusteekonna. Suur tänu kõikidele vaatajatele, kes on jätkuvalt praegu vaatamast. Aitäh kõigile esinejatele, kes lahval olid, kõik, kes oma videod saatsid.
Participated on stage, who sent their videos. Thank you very much. Keep yourselves informed of the news about Estonians on the Global Estonians website. We recorded today's forum, and you will be able to access it on the Global Estonian website, and we will add subtitles in English if you wish to share the video or recording with your friends or relatives who do not speak Estonian. I would like to wish you a good period leading up to Christmas. I hope we can meet again in the spring of 2025. We will have new topics, hopefully also proposed by you, and I also have a song to sing to you called Uncle John, and with this song I would like to send regards to all my relatives in Canada.
Everybody's grooving, you're acting shy. My own white acoustic, got new strings tonight, no better time, feeling is right, yeah. Oh, just give it a try now. I know what just the cure for your symptoms. Come follow these notes, I'll make this real simple. My remedy lands in your systems. Come follow these notes, I'll play guitar like my Uncle John, Carole King and some Beatles songs. Just let it be, girl, and come along. And I'll play guitar like my Uncle John. I'll play you a solo if it makes you smile. Girl, get your feet moving and let's light up the night. No better time, feeling is right. Oh, just give it a try now. And I know just the cure for your symptoms. Come follow these notes, I'll make this real simple. My remedy lands in your systems. Oh, come follow these notes, I'll play guitar like my Uncle John, Carole King and some Beatles songs. Just let it be, girl, and come along. And I'll play guitar like my Uncle John. Oh, I'll play guitar like my Uncle John, Carole King and some Beatles songs. Oh, just let it be, girl, and come along. And I'll play guitar like my Uncle John. Guitar like my Uncle John, Carole King, and I got to have those Beatles songs. So just let it be, girl, and come along. And I'll play guitar like my Uncle John, like my Uncle John, Carole King, and I got to have those Beatles songs. Just let it be, girl, and come along. And I'll play guitar like my Uncle John.